Hi there folks, and welcome to video number 22. This one is on FDP'S, which means fractions, decimals and percentages, and ordering. So the keywords I've got for you are conversion and equivalent. Now a conversion is done between a fraction, a decimal and a percentage. It means changing from one thing to another. And equivalent it just means it's the same value as. So in the methods section I've got a little table which tells you how to go from one thing to another thing. It's what we've got down the side and what we want along the top. Now the fraction to a fraction, you can do a fraction to a fraction, you can simplify fractions, you can find equivalent fractions all day long. There's an infinite number of equivalent fractions. But for the purpose of this video, we don't do this, we don't need this box. Then we've got the fraction to a decimal. Is literally done all the time if you want, top divided by bottom. That's a way of getting that done. There might be another way that might be a bit easier to understand, but we can always do that. Then we've got fraction to a percentage. You just do top divided by bottom, but then you multiply by 100 afterwards. So decimal to a fraction, you multiply by a power of 10 to make it a whole number. Put that over what you multiplied by, and then you simplify the fraction if it's possible to. Decimal to decimal, not necessary. Decimal to percentage, literally just multiply by 100. Percentage to a fraction, if you put the number that is the percentage over 100 and then simplify the fraction, then you've done that percentage to a fraction conversion, and then percentage to a decimal, divide the number of the percentage by 100, just the exact opposite of decimal to percentage. Percentage to percentage, not necessary, I can't even say that. Anyway, number one, fill in the missing values in the table. There are some equivalents you should know. Half is one of those, all right? 0.5 as a decimal. That should stick out, right? How do we get 0.5? We do 1 divided by 2 using the bus stop. 2 fits into 1, no times, decimal place goes in, carry that 1 over, put it next to this placeholder 0, and then 2 goes into 10 5 times. That's how we get 0.5 as a terminating decimal. Done. Happy days. Now half turned into a percentage. Again, you should know it's 50%. I think a lot of people probably already do. But 0.5 multiplied by 100 is the method that we would employ. We go 1, 2 spaces, and we get the 0.50 turns into 50, and that's our percentage. Okay, that's how we do that. Other equivalents you should know: 1/4, 3/4, 2/3, and 1/3. I'll come to that in a minute. So, you can always do this little bit of working out though, it's fine. If you would like to use another method, you can turn your fraction 1/2 into 5 out of 10. That would be a nice thing to do. And just multiplying by 5 there, aren't you, on the top and the bottom of your fraction, as long as you multiply by the same things, you found an equivalent fraction. If you then turn it into 100, you've multiplied by 10, multiply by 10 on the top, and you've turned it into 50. You can see 50 sitting there over the 100 is turned it into a percentage easily, and then you can turn it back into a decimal by dividing by 100. It's up to you how you do this. All right, that's a nice way of thinking of it as well, I think. So the second question, we've got 0.9, and we're going to turn it into a percentage. So literally 2 spaces to the right turns it into 90%. Okay, that's where the decimal was. It's now moved to the end there to turn it into a percentage. If we want to turn it into a fraction, we multiply by 10. So 1 space over, put that number 9 out of the number we multiplied by. So 9 out of 10 is what it becomes. You can't simplify that fraction because both numbers don't divide by something that make them whole numbers. The next one, 38%, we divide by 100 to turn it into a decimal. Put the decimal place in there and we get 0.38. Put 0 in front of it. And as a fraction, we can turn that into 38 out of 100 very quickly, because percent does mean out of 100. That's a nice thing to remember. You can divide both those numbers by 2. They're both divisible by 2. So that would give you 19 out of 50, and that would be our simplified version. That is correct, but that is a simplified version. So we'll put 19 out of 50. And then the last one, like I was mentioning, 2/3 is a useful one to remember. You can use your method here of doing 2 divided by 3. 3 fits into 2, no times. Decimal place, carry the 2 over. Next to the 0, 3 goes into 20, 6 times, extend it because you've got 2 left over again, and 6 times, and 2 left over again, and 6 times, and you get the picture. It's going to recur. It's a recurring decimal. So 0.6 and then recurring above it. If you take that and you multiply it by 100, 2 spaces to the right, it's still going to get recurring 6 all the way afterwards, and the decimal place is moved to here. So 66.6% or 66.6 recurring percent. So we write that in there. We can still put the dot above the 6 that recurs, and incidentally 1/3 is 0.3 recurring and 33.3 recurring percent. Okay, so that's how we do those conversions. Now, in question number 2, we got to order the following numbers. We've got a mixture, we've got negative numbers, we've got decimal numbers, percentages, and a fraction, or percentage and fraction in there as well. You might get questions where it's just ordering decimals, in which case you have to understand your place value, what each number is worth, right? For example, here we've got a number 0.55 that's got next to the number that's 0.678. This one's got more digits. Does it mean it's worth more? Not necessarily. It's all about the value of each number. Okay, so think carefully about what each digit is worth. Now, the first 2 numbers here are negative numbers. Hopefully everybody recognizes that negative numbers are going to be smaller than 0 point numbers. Okay, negative numbers go below 0, right, and all of these numbers will be above 0 because they can be turned into our decimals, and the fractions percentages can. Some of them already are. So this is our most negative, -12, negative 12, and this one is the next one. So we've got rid of those 2. They're kind of out of the way. Not too much of a problem, I wouldn't have thought. But think of temperature if you're struggling with negative numbers. What's colder? -12 is colder than -5, for example. Then we come to these numbers, so we need to convert them into the same thing. It might be useful to convert them into decimals or percentages or fractions. It's totally up to you. I'm going to convert them into percentages because I think it's easy to do that with these decimals. So 55%, oops, that's a weird 5. 55% is what that one is, because you just multiply by 100. This one, multiply by 100, 67.8%. This one, a little bit trickier because it's a fraction, so we have to turn it, maybe do the equivalent fraction method, turn it into 4 out of 10, which would be 40 out of 100, which would be 40%. Okay, so there's another equivalent you might know, you might learn that one. That's 40%. Splitting things into fifths is quite nice. 61% is still 61%, which is fine. Multiply this number, 4.5 by 100, you get 4.5, jump it 2 spaces, it's turned into 450. So 450%. And then 2 spaces to the right for 0.45 is going to be 45%. Now, all you have to do is write them in their original format. So the next smallest number we can see there is the one that's 40%. That's the smallest percentage that we've got. So 2/5 is the next number that we would write. So write down 2/5. Then we've got 45%, so 0.45. Then we've got 55%, so 0.55. Then we've got 61%, which we write as that. Then we've got 0.678. And then we've got the 450%, which is 4.5. Alright, we've ordered those numbers in ascending order, which means going up. That's what we generally tend to do. Alright, hopefully that makes a bit of sense. Like I said, it could just all be one thing, but this one was a mixture. Now, in question number 3, what I've got is a wordy question. In class 11D CBE, there are 25 students. 11 of them prefer to wear trainers instead of shoes. What fraction of students prefer wearing trainers? So the fraction of students is going to be out of 25, because there are 25 students in that class. 11 of them prefer to wear trainers. Read the question. Which ones prefer to win trade? Okay, so it's 11. All right, there we go. 11 out of 25. As simple as that. It doesn't ask us to simplify it or anything. And even if it did, we wouldn't be able to. Now, what percentage of students prefer wearing trainers? This is going to help us. 11 out of 25 is going to help us, because what we can do is we can turn that into a fraction that is out of 100. It's the easiest way of doing it. If you multiply by 4, you've turned 25 into 100. So you multiply the top by 4 and you get the answer, 44 out of 100. Now, that is very simple as a percentage now, because it just sits on the top of the fraction. So 44% is the percentage of students in that class that prefer wearing trainers. So at least more of them do prefer wearing shoes. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that video. Thank you very much for watching. Please do like, subscribe, and practice using the resources below. That's the most important thing. All right, take care of yourselves, look after one another, and have a lovely day. Bye-bye.